Well, this Sunday, Cuba holding a landmark referendum. On the ballot is whether to legalize same-sex marriage and abortion, surrogate pregnancies, giving greater rights to non-biological parents, many other issues. It's a new family code promoted by the communist government, and it would mark a major shift in Cuba. But amid the country's worst economic crisis in 30 years, some experts say the referendum could turn into an opportunity to voice opposition. For more, let's speak to our very own Luis Miguel Cabrera. Hello to you, Luis. First of all, remind us how we got here. This vote happening today, but it was a long time in the making.
Yeah, that's right. The National Assembly approved the final draft of this referendum only after months of reunions, meetings, and discussions in every single neighborhood of Cuba. They're saying there were about 80,000 of these meetings, and from then, people expressed their opinion and made suggestions on what should change, what should be changed or not, or add to this text. Around 300,000 of those suggestions were taken into account. So this is what is voted to date. One of the most democratic processes ever, according, of course, to the Cuban government. We have to take into account that this referendum poses so little threat to the Cuban government and no risk at all for the power, the amount of power the Communist Party holds, that it's a good moment for an exercise of true democracy.
Yeah, a chance of appear open and inclusive. What's your feeling on how this will play out?
Well, of course, people's position on sex marriage will determine most of the vote, but also the context. There's a widespread anger over food, medicine, and electricity shortages in Cuba, up to 14 hours per day, every day. This is very hard for Cuban people. Worst economic crisis ever after COVID pandemic. The U.S. sanctions harsher than ever on Cuban. Moreover, the Cuban government, whose economic policies and recent reforms have been a disaster for the Cuban economy. So with all this dissatisfaction rises the possibility that Cubans will cast a protest vote against the administration of Miguel Diaz-Canel, which has been very enthusiastic on campaigning for this referendum. Of course, also on the no side, you have religious organizations. First time, a group of them have published declarations openly against an initiative presented by the government, and a part of the opposition which thinks that this is a sort of like a ray of fake democracy that shouldn't be taken seriously. But in any case, there is no way the Cuban government would lose out of this process, because if the referendum wins, if the law passes, well, it's a victory for them. It's something they proposed, and that is actually giving more rights to the Cuban people, and they can portray themselves as a very modern government, which is catching up with those other 10 countries in Latin America or in America that currently have approved same-sex marriage. But if people vote no, well, then democracy won. They proposed something, and they believe so much in democracy that they accept this defeat. And in any case, it will be a win for them.
Yeah, and let's look at what else is on that proposal. Same-sex marriage and abortion dominating the headlines. But it goes far beyond that, this family code. Talk us about what else would change if it does pass.
Yes, you mentioned the same-sex marriage, but also adoption, surrogate pregnancy, and other parental rights. This law also codifies domestic violence penalties, labor rights to those people who take care of children, old people, or people with disabilities, and they do that full time. They will have labor rights. Also, it will allow parental rights shared among extended and non-traditional structures or family structures. It includes grandparents, step-parents, and surrogate mothers. For example, it establishes the rules for communication between children and their grandparents after a divorce, and also the right for parents to choose the order of the family name. Currently in Latin America, you get the first name of your father, and your second name is the first name of your mother. Now you can decide on how you will name your child with your partner. So this a parental duty. This is a slight political thing that was introduced in the Constitution, which is that there's a parental duty for to respect or to teach children, to educate children to respect authorities, the homeland, and its symbols. And this could seem very innocent, but in the end, those same authorities are deciding what is respect or not.
Yeah. A very, very broad referendum, and I guess we'll find out just how much life changes once we have those results. Thank you very much, Luis Miguel Cabrera.